Okay, gotta pause it. You know you like that song. I can't help but like it. Okay, continuing what we did yesterday, but today we're going to include all quadrants. Yesterday was all triangles in quadrant 1. So now you're going to have triangles in other quadrants. And just to refresh, remember your reference triangles, just like a reference angle, they're drawn to the x-axis. So this green one, those are the kinds we did yesterday. But you're going to have other quadrants. So that's a little reference picture to help you remember how to draw your triangle. Always drawn down to the x-axis, not over to the y-axis. Okay, just like yesterday, we're going to plot the point given, -3, -2. I drew the hash marks out on this graph, but you don't have to draw them, just as long as you get the point in the correct quadrant and you draw it to the x-axis. Doesn't really matter what shape or size your triangle is. Okay, but -3, -2 is left 3 on the x-axis, and -2 is down 2. So let's draw your triangle. And that's your point on the terminal side. You label your sides, -3, -2. These are directional sides, so don't leave off the negative. We need those. And then we have to find the hypotenuse using the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, common mistake is people putting these in the calculator wrong. If you're going to use a calculator, you must put the parentheses around it, just like I have with the exponent outside. You really shouldn't need a calculator for small numbers like this. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 3 times 3 is 9. And -2 times -2 is +4. This is the common mistake people make in the calculator. That's why I put the ugly face beside it, because I see it's way too much. The calculator reads that as -9 plus -4, and that is not what it's supposed to be. When you square a negative, you get a positive. So don't be putting this in the calculator that way. Okay, back to our problem. 9 plus 4 is 13, and that is not the length of the hypotenuse. You have to square root that. And since 13 does not have a perfect square, we're going to leave it as square root of 13. So label your hypotenuse with the square root of 13. Now, where is Pac-Man? Where is your theta, your reference angle? The reference angle, theta, is at the origin. It's always at the origin. So there's where your Pac-Man goes, and that will just help you label your sides. So we know that the root 13 is your hypotenuse. And since -2 is opposite Pac-Man, that would be your opposite side. And the one that's left is your adjacent side. Now it's time to fill in the 6 answers. So this is where some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid, and then the reciprocals down the other side. Fill in your fractions, and if they reduce, reduce them. Okay, just because you filled in all the numbers does not mean you're done. And some of you just conveniently overlooked this part of the video yesterday, but this is very important. You will not get a multiple choice answer correctly if you're accustomed to leaving the answers like some of these are. And let's start with the 2 easy ones. These 2. When you have a negative divided by a negative, that reduces to a positive. So both of these we should reduce to positives. So the easiest way I could do that is just change the negative signs to positives. So that's +2/3 and +3/2. Now, are any of these other answers not quite finished? Let's hope you say this one. Remember, you cannot leave a root in the denominator. You have to do what's called rationalize the denominator. And this one. So let's fix those 2. Okay, so here we go. These 2, I'm going to rationalize those down here at the bottom. So let's make some notes of that. How do you fix that? Rationalize it. You multiply by this root 13 on top and bottom. Same thing here. Pause the video, try it yourself. So you have that step where you are going to multiply by root 13. Same thing here. So there's the sine answer. Negative 2 square root of 13 divided by 13. Remember, you don't actually have to multiply the 13s on the bottom. Because, 13 times 13 is 13 squared. And the root of 13 squared, the root and square cancel each other out. So just come back to plain old 13. And there's your cosine answer. So those two, make sure you fix those on your paper. Alright, I think you should pause the video, try this one yourself. How'd you do on drawing the triangle? Did you go left 2 and up 11 and label those sides appropriately? How about setting up the Pythagorean theorem? Did you put your negative 2 in parentheses? If you get in good habits of writing it appropriately, correctly, then you'll do much better on those college placement tests, because those are the things they're looking to see if you know or don't know. Those are the things that will put you in remedial math in a class that you don't get credit for. So get your good habits going. Okay, so did you square negative 2 and get a positive 4? Hope so. Add them together, you got 125. If you type that in the calculator, long decimal, not the format we want. We want to simplify square root of 125. And I know you've been used to using those Casio calculators that do it for you. But if you don't have a Casio, how do you do it by yourself? Well, do your factor tree. See what goes into that number. Well, I'm thinking about money, like quarters. I know that 5 quarters is $1.25. So 5 times 25 is $1.25. And then 25 breaks into 5 and 5. So when you're doing square roots, you need a pair to basically root. So you're able to square root this 25. Square root of 25 is 5. So that pair of 5s comes outside the root, and the 1 5 left. So it looks like this. 5 square root 5. That 5 left. So that is your hypotenuse. Alright, as you label your triangle now with Pac-Man in the correct position at the origin, you got the opposite side, the hypotenuse, and the adjacent side. Just recall, here's your right angle, so the hypotenuse is always across opposite that right angle. Alright, try your 6 trig functions. Okay, check what you have so far. And am I done? Are my answers good to go now? No, which ones are not? Of course, the ones with the root on the bottom. This one. And these are okay with roots on top. We can leave those. And let me make one note right here just to be on the safe side. A lot of times with a negative in the bottom of the fraction, they may just write it out front. Both, out front of the fraction, either way. Writing a negative in front does not mean that top and bottom both are negative. So it will look like this. See there? Just straight out front. Means those mean exactly the same thing. Okay, now let's work on the harder part, the roots. Alright, so I'm going to fix this one where I have some more room down here. And same deal with this one down here at the bottom. So, question is, what do you multiply by on this one? Do you need the whole denominator, 5 root 5? No, you don't. You just need the root part, because that's the part that is irrational. So you're going to multiply top and bottom by root 5. That's what it looks like, multiplying top and bottom by root 5. So let's look at what the numerator, 11 root 5. The denominator, what's going to happen there? What happens, the two roots, root 5 times root 5 is just 5, but you have this 5 out front, so you have to multiply those two together. So that'd be 25 in the denominator. So there it is. 11 root 5 over 25. That's my sine answer. Try the cosine. Now we got it. So there's my sine answer and my cosine answer. One more for me, 3 more for you. Okay, looking at this point, where in the world is root 3 on a graph? You really don't even have to get it in the right place. The positive negative sign tells you which way to go. And we're looking at this one, and basically we have a positive number, the root 3 is positive, and we have a negative number. So that tells you which way to draw your triangle. Positive means go to the right some amount, square root of 3, I don't know how far that is, 1 point something. And the negative, square root of 5, I gotta go down some amount. So there's my root 3 and my negative square root 5. Okay, pause the video and you try to find the hypotenuse. See how well you do. Alright, those good math habits. Wrap that up. Square root of 3 squared just cancels the square, cancels out the root, and that is just 3. As we do the next part, recall that a negative squared, negative times a negative, is a positive. And again, the square cancels out the root, so that becomes positive 5. And you have square root of 8, which doesn't have a whole number square root, but we need to do factor tree and see if anything simplifies out of that root. When you break 8 down, you have 2 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. So you do have a pair of 2's, either pair of 2's. That's really like saying the square root of 4 is 2. So you're going to take a pair of those and kind of like, square root of 4 is 2. So that comes to the outside is 2. And then you're left with the root 2. I don't know if you've noticed it yet, but have you noticed that the hypotenuse is always a positive number? It's not directional. Only the x and y values can be negative. The hypotenuse is always a positive number. Time to do the 6 trig functions. Just pause the video, try it yourself. Okay, I hope you appropriately labeled your sides. The reference theta angle, Pac-Man, is at the origin, so the negative square root of 5 is the opposite side, the hypotenuse across from the right angle, and then adjacent. Hypotenuse is always the slanted side too on these kind of triangles, and then your adjacent side is the one that's left. Now, when I plug them all in, I almost wish I hadn't put this problem in there, because every single one of these, hold up, yep, even that one, I forgot my root. Every one of these needs a work done to it. Let's get busy. Okay, so I just rewrote all 6 in order down here at the bottom. I hope you have room. Maybe you can squeeze them in up there. But what does this first one need to be multiplied by, top and bottom? I hope you said it needs a square root of 2, because that's the irrational part of the denominator. What does this one need to be multiplied by? Same thing. How about this one? Root 3. Let's get busy. So when you multiply across the top, on the other ones we left a 5 in front of the root 2. But both of these are roots, so we can multiply them together and make it root 10. And then on bottom, when we multiply the 2 root 2's, remember those 2 just give you the plain 2. But you also have, this 2 in front. So you have to remember to multiply it by it. So the denominator will actually be 4. Okay, so there's your final answer. Remember the 2 times those make a 2 makes 4. Now don't reduce that, because one's a root and one's not. So you can't reduce a lot. Okay, so check your answers on this side. Same rule here. You get an extra 2, so that makes a 4. Don't reduce 4 into 6. But you can multiply those together because they're both roots, by the way. Same thing on this last one. You can multiply both roots together. 15. Root 3 times root 3 is just plain 3, so that one's done. Try these on this side. Okay, looking at these on this side, the root 5, that's what we need for that one. There's the root 3, so we need one there and there. Same thing for this one. Now don't let the negatives flip you up. I just stick them out front. Stick them out front of our answer. So this one and this one will have the negative, and you don't have to worry about it. Just the answer is negative. All right, let's take a minute to look at those answers. Remember the negatives? I said just stick them in your answer, usually out front rather than in the bottom. It's not wrong if you put it in the bottom, but it's common to be out front. Multiplying these two, this 2 just stays outside, and both of these roots multiply together and give you 10. And then, of course, on bottom, the root 5 times root 5 is just 5. So study this patterns here. 2 on the outside carries over. Multiply the roots together, you get 6. Those just multiply to be 3. Multiply the roots together, we got 15. Those sort of, root 25 is back to 5. Okay, it's your turn to do the back side of this worksheet. So you're doing numbers 4 through 6 and then turning them in. Now I did the hardest case scenario, number 3. The back, you won't have any that hard. You'll notice none of the problems on the back have a root in it. Now your hypotenuse might have a root, but it won't be nothing like number 3. And I'm going to give you a quiz tomorrow, so be conscientious. Learn what you're supposed to. And this looked like somebody familiar, so there's a little advice. That's all I have today. You get busy.